So let's look at a couple more examples where we need to write the equation of the circle from the graph below. And we know the standard equation for a circle, which I've written right here, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared, where the center is h comma k. So if we can figure out the center and the radius, then we can just plug those values in and simplify this equation. So we can see the coordinate for the center of our circle is at -1 for x and +1 for y. So h is -1 and k is +1. Now to find the radius, we're told a point on the circle, and this point has an x value of 0 and a y value of 1.75. So to find the radius, we are trying to figure out this distance between the center and this point. We can call this r. And to figure that out, we can create a right triangle here and use the Pythagorean theorem. So the bottom side of this right triangle, you can see we're at an x value of -1 here, and we go to 0. So this is just a length of 1. Or in other words, these boxes, these dash marks here, these are all 0.25, and there's 4 of them. So that would be 1 total. Now, the y value goes from +1 to 1.75. So this height of our triangle is 0.75. And we can use the Pythagorean theorem from here, since we know that for right triangles, a squared plus b squared is c squared, where a and b are the legs on either side of the right angle, and c is the hypotenuse, which in this case is r. So let's plug in our values. We have that 1 squared plus 0.75. We're going to square that, and I'll write this as 3/4 since it's a little bit easier to square a fraction. But if you want to leave it as a decimal, that works as well. So we have 3/4 squared, and this is equal to the radius squared. So 1 squared is 1, and 3/4 times 3/4 would be 9/16. And adding these together, we can give this a common denominator of 16. So multiply top and bottom by 16. And 16 plus 9, that's 25. So to figure out r, we take a square root of everything, and we get the square root of 25/16 as r. And when we take the square root of a quotient, we take the square root of the top and divide it by the square root of the bottom, the denominator. And the square root of 25 is 5, square root of 16 is 4. And with all of that, it looks like our radius is 5/4 or 1.25. And from here, we can just plug in the center and the radius to this standard equation here. Now, x minus h squared will become x minus -1. And we'll square that, plus y minus k, and k is 1, squared is equal to the radius squared. And the truth is, we didn't really need to find the radius here. We could have left it as r squared, since our equation really just deals with r squared. So let's just plug in what r squared is equal to, this 25/16. And if we want, we can simplify this further, since really we have x minus -1, which is the same as adding 1. So if we want, we can change this to x plus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared is 25/16. And the way to check this is to take this point that we were given and plug it into the equation and see if it simplifies to this 25/16. Or in other words, we need to plug this in to make sure that the equation remains true, that we get something that actually makes sense. But when you do that, you will see that it works and that this is the correct equation for this example problem. So let's look at one more problem. And for this example problem, we're not shown the graph, but we are told information about the radius and the center. So let me paste in our standard equation, and we're told what the center is, which means we know what h and k are equal to, and we're also told what the radius is equal to, since r is the square root of 13. Now, we really need r squared, so let's square each side of this equation. And when you square a square root, the square and square root cancel, so we just get 13 here. And at this point, let's just plug in what we know into our standard equation. So we get x minus h, but h is minus 9.3, and we will square all of that, plus y minus k, and k is 4.1, we'll square that, and this is equal to the radius squared, and in this case, the radius squared is 13. So let's just simplify this. Since we are subtracting a negative, this is really x plus 9.3 squared plus y minus 4.1 squared is equal to 13. So this should be the equation of a circle with a center of minus 9.3, comma 4.1, and a radius of the square root of 13.